Won't you take me back to Tennessee?
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest info about hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. This episode is brought to you by GSM Outdoors, whose vision is to preserve the sportsman's legacy, fuel innovation, and enable the next generation of outdoor enthusiasts. Think outside. That's where you'll find us. Now, make welcome your host, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We are again at the Rube Ray Memorial Clubhouse here on Ames. I'm going to stop right there because I just learned that there's a new title for this property here.
In the field trial world, we will forever be known as Ames Plantation. But we're actually have a new title.
Ames AgResearch and Education Center.
There you go. Ames AgResearch and Education Center. And that's the voice of Matt Backus. He's the Center Director. For Ames, and today we're going to learn all about the property and some history and what goes on here. We've been here before. You got us a show, lined us up a show a few years back, and I'm just glad to be back and do it again for folks who haven't seen that show or new to Wildcast. We're going to highlight some stuff today, and there is a field trial going on.
Just a small one.
Just a small one.
Small one right now. We are
the 126th.
126th National Championship. But I want to talk to Matt because Matt took over here April 1st, 2024 as the new center director. And there's a lot of people that don't really know what's going on with Ames or you, because you're a new face considering around here from the history. But let's start with you. Tell us about yourself.
I grew up in East Tennessee, just outside of Knoxville, the son of a vet. My grandfather taught animal science for 35 years at UT, so it's kind of in my blood that's kind of the direction I took. I've got a bachelor's and a master's from University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Go Big Orange.
Go Big Orange. As I was finishing my field work in grad school, the beef herdsman position came open here, and I actually started here before I finished my master's, which was almost bad, but we got it done at the last second, and I was here for 6 years, and then we moved to Middle Tennessee for 4 to another research and education center, and then came back when the assistantship opened up 2 years ago.
Awesome.
And then moving on up April 1st, 2024.
Yep.
Well, did you grow up, other than cattle and farming and things, did you grow up hunting and fishing?
Grew up hunting, fishing. The mountains and hollers of East Tennessee are vastly different than what we have here, but same things apply.
Yeah.
Do you miss home?
Home is where you make it.
That's true. That's true.
I used to get that all the time. Everybody would be like, hey, this ridge. And I'd be like, you mean the dry spot? Because that is not a ridge. No.
Well, that's cool. Well, thanks for having us today. And I'm just looking forward to learning a little bit about what's going on here. And I don't know what direction you wanted to go, Amy, but
yeah, I left this it's pretty broad.
Pretty vague.
Come on now. But anyway, let's talk about your role here and what all goes on here, because there is a variety of activities going on, from research to education to field trials to crops. I mean, it is huge what goes on here. And let's give a little background on the acreage and a little bit about.
It's a little over 13,000 acres today. I like to tell people that I've got 3 bosses. I've got our board of trustees, we'll talk about in a minute. I've got my UT bosses, and then the field trial is basically another boss. So in and among that, we got 14 regular employees that we keep full time, just trying to keep them busy with research and education and farming. That's our main source of income, is farming. But we've got turkey hunting club, a deer hunting club, and all the research associated with that. CWD research has been big here lately. Cattle, we do some research with them, and a lot of variety testing in the row crops, as well as some fertility work with the different corn, cotton, and soybeans. But going back to the board of trustees, just a brief history, because being over 100 years old, we can spend a whole episode talking about how this was formed. But Mr. Ames bought up to 18,000 acres in the early 1900s. And this was his winter retreat. This is where he liked to go and hunt, basically. He would entertain, and that's all it was. When he died, he left it to his wife. They didn't have any kids because her grandmother passed when she was giving birth, and her mother passed when she was giving birth to her. So he found out real quick that kids weren't for her. So she had the forethought to set it up in a trust for the perpetuity of the national championship, as well as we take liberties now, but it says for the benefit of the boys of the College of Agriculture at the University of Tennessee. Truth be told, we have more girls that come through here nowadays. That's kind of how it was set up. So we've got a board of trustees. There's 3 on the board that make all the major decisions, and we cooperate heavily with UT day in and day out.
Can you elaborate on some of the hunting clubs and things like that? That's pretty cool. I don't guess I realized that was happening out here.
Sure. They back before CWD hit, it was probably the premier QDM club in the Southeast.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we've kind of changed from QDM to just above basic hunter harvesting. It's a different kind of hunter, where it used to be probably trophy. You're more dads and sons coming out just to get out of Memphis or the greater Memphis area. And then we have about 30 memberships in our turkey club too, and I think it's 4 or 5 year waiting list just to get in.
Oh,
There's
wow!
a lot of turkeys here.
A lot of turkeys here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
If you know somebody, can you get in?
Nope.
Darn.
Good try, Jason. Good try.
No, that would be cool. That's awesome. I didn't realize that part.
And one other thing that a lot of people don't realize is the cattle herd here.
Cattle herd. Yeah, Mr. Ames brought them over from Scotland in 1913. And originally they were just going to be bush hogs for the field trial course. That was their original intent. But he, just like all the things he did, bought the best of the best. And they were actually really successful showing. They've got ribbons from the Chicago Livestock Expo in 1937. There's actually a picture of A.P. Bowe in the Manor House hanging above the second floor stairs that Maud Earl did. So very, very prominent. We've kept that going. It's a closed herd. Do strictly artificial insemination for breeding, so we keep all of our own stuff. So.
And it is the second oldest herd.
Second oldest Angus herd in the whole country. Yep.
Wow, that's very cool.
And back when, I got to bring this up, when Matt was over the cattle herd a long time ago, he had to show me this cool little, as he calls it, the BandAid. What's its official name?
It's Jake's Wire Tightener.
Jake's Wire Tightener. It's my best friend, and I will say the BandAid's hold a long time because I used it back when my husband was out of town for a mishap at the farm, and those BandAids have been holding for quite a few months.
Yeah,
but anyway,
there you go.
It's my favorite fencing tool ever. You just put that in there and twist, and it's the wire's tight again. It's awesome.
Very cool.
Yep.
You'll learn a lot here on WildCast.
Yeah. Well, done a lot of fencing. It's a valuable tool. So.
Well, speaking of that, there's a lot of property to keep up. I mean, how many people do you have on staff that are out actually doing the hard labor here?
hard labor.
Are you doing
Everybody
that?
does.
Everybody does it. Yeah. There's nobody that's immune from that. There's, I guess, 14 full time, and that's including me and a secretary or an admin assistant in the office. So. Everybody wears a lot of hats. It just depends on what time of the year it is. Right now, it's all hands on deck for field trial. In the barn early, saddling, make sure everything's good to go, keeping the grounds up, the trash emptied, everything.
Cleaning off horses intact because it is muddy.
Washing mud religiously. And then as soon as this is over, we actually have another field trial next week. But after that, we'll progress into burning and try to get as much of this field trial course burnt as we can.
Okay. Yeah. A little prescribed fire.
A little prescribed fire is good for the soul.
A little habitat. Yeah.
Nothing like a good fire. And if you're not a little scared, you're not doing it right.
That's exactly right. It's got to scare you just a little bit.
That's a former professor at UT 101. If you're not scared, you're not doing it right. So.
That's right.
Billy Menzer, I got to give him credit on that. And I was there the day it got out, and it went really wrong. So, but I really want to go back on more what happens here. You touched on a little bit of the crop research because that is where your money comes from.
That is our budget for the year is what we can make with crops and cattle and selling a little bit of timber here and there. Yep.
What you did bring it up some of the I wrote it down some of the research on the crops. What are y'all doing with? I mean, what do you do with that?
So our county extension agent he puts in variety tests. We'll be a site for a variety test for cotton. And then there's a couple of folks from Jackson that are doing low P and low K versus high P, high K, or different treatments on how crops respond in marginal soils, which we have an abundance of out here. So very applicable to the region.
Okay.
What's a marginal soil? How would you explain that?
It's not very fertile,
Okay.
not very.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Gotcha.
better off for CRP, maybe borderline in that area. So, and in addition to the crop research, this is a very unique place. I was talking to the mayor last night at the fish fry, and he said this is the gem of the West, Southwest Tennessee. Nobody really knows about it, but there's so much here, and part of that is the culture and the cultural resources that we have. Because for the past 125 years, this has largely been untouched or unbusted up. So across the landscape, you can go to old home sites and excavate and garner information that you could apply to a very broad region of this Mid-South. And that's what Rhodes College and the University of Memphis are doing. They come for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks in late May, June, and spend those 2 or 3 weeks at specific sites looking at the different cultures and resources and how things were back when. And I think we have 6 or 7 master's projects completed, or theses completed through that, and a very, very good working relationship with Rhodes and Memphis.
I bet that's really cool. Just to you never know what you're going to find on those little home sites, and tilling the land and things like that. It probably turns up all kinds of fun stuff.
Yep, I think the last check I saw, we had over 200 sites registered with the Tennessee Division of Archaeology.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
What's one of the most cool things that's been found out here? Can you share any of that kind of stuff?
I mean, there's always cool stuff, but I think the most enlightening thing to me, so obviously we're talking early, late 18s, early 19s, so slave culture was still here, and we recognize that. We don't promote it, but it is what it is. But part of what they were seeing is the porcelain remnants in those slave houses. The quality of that reflected on how well off the slave owners were, and you could kind of correlate that to how well the slaves were treated.
Oh, really?
The slaves are eating on good china, then the owners are doing better than most. So
Right.
just little nuances like that, you're just like, oh, I never really thought about that, but yeah. And you can apply that to just about everywhere, all the way down the Delta, over into Arkansas, up in Kentucky. Yeah, it's neat.
Very cool. That's neat.
One thing else about Ames that a lot of people don't realize, the house that's still here, and the brick stables. Can you touch on those just a little bit? Because that's I just love them every time. I'm always in awe. But anyway.
Yeah, so the Manor House was part of Cedar Grove Plantation. John Walker Jones built the original part. When Mr. Ames bought it, he built the east wing and put the kitchen in. And after that, about probably 1910 is when he built the brick stables, and it's 20 stalls for draft stock plus 5 standing stalls on each side. It's a symmetrical building. The walls are 4 bricks thick, and the footers are twice as thick as the walls. I mean, this thing could withstand
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
everything short of an F5 tornado. It's in brick floors. There's a carriage room with a wash. People come in and they're like, oh, wow, this is so nice. Do you even use it? We use it
Every day.
hard, yes.
Yeah, every day.
Like right now,
Wow.
it's getting super hard. Yeah.
Wow, and it's withstanding today's, torture, I guess, and just the day-to-day that y'all are going through here.
And we have done a previous episode in the Manor House. If you want to go back through our archives,
Yeah, what
because
number? I can't remember what show number
there was
that is.
actually 2. We shot a field trial version in one, and then we moved. So there's actually 2 where you can actually see the inside, and it's if you're into old Southern homes, you've definitely got to check it out because it's beautiful.
Yeah. Can folks tour and stop in at any time? Would you?
Yeah, we actually opened the house up the 4th Thursday of the month from March until October.
Okay.
I never knew that. Well, it's awesome.
Open. We prefer an appointment, but if you stop by, we'll take you through it.
Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's almost another one. We just need to go through room to room. And I said that before because there's a lot of history, and things disappear. I mean, not disappear. Things don't disappear, but the history disappears. That translates to you from Dr. Carlisle. We really need to document some of this stuff because there's little stories behind everything in each room, and it could be so cool to showcase that and memorialize that information because we all know things have a
Over
way
time,
of
it
just
yeah.
disappear. Yeah. Or we lose it.
Yeah, we're actually working on that. Went through with a tape recorder with
Awesome.
Dr. Carlisle and got the full, it was about 2.5 hours. So we're going to try to get it transcribed and condensed and make it to where you could almost do just like a walking tour, have QR codes and stuff like that.
Oh, very cool.
That's a side note I'll have to tell you about. There's a National Wildlife Refuge outside of Denver, Colorado, and they did that. They have a whole podcast, and it's a car tour that you do, and it's phenomenal when you go through it. That's pretty awesome. One thing we probably want to touch on is your forestry history here, because there's a heck of there's some impressive timber on this place.
Yes. And the sale tract that we just got done getting over to the state has probably got the premier white oak stand in the South. But Dr. Houston spent his career working on the forest, getting it managed, selectively cutting and doing the right things. But aside from that, he's started hardwood genetics, and I kind of joke with him. He's basically doing what we've been doing in cattle for the last 100 years just here recently, because it takes so long to see any kind of result with trees, because 30 years before you can see what's going on.
Definitely.
But they're making some great strides and causing some ripples in the scientific community. Some people are balking and saying, oh, that's never going to work, but here's the proof in the pudding. So it's very neat, and couldn't come at a more timely time, really, with the way that our white oaks are disappearing faster than we can get them regenerated.
That's pretty cool. All right. One thing that we ought to discuss is some of the misconceptions, because there's a lot of misconceptions. Things. Well, I'll bring up one. It's state-owned. So.
Yes, there are. I probably get that question or comment at least once a year.
Yeah.
Oh, state owns that, don't they? Or y'all run by UT, right? No, like I talked about earlier, we are privately held by a trust, or the trust, and a board of trustees, and cooperate heavily. The will states that we're operating for the benefit of the university, but that does not make them a beneficiary in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, we are one and of ourself. The university owns a few pieces of equipment, but all the buildings, all the cattle, all the employees are Ames. Well, actually, the employees are UT, but that's a different topic for a different day.
All right. What about some of the other misconceptions?
That's probably the biggest one. That it's a full-time job for sure. People think we just turn off the lights and go home.
No, and that is something to bring up. You all live here, you work here.
Oh, you get to live on the property.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's
right
neat.
in the middle of it. So the only way to get off call is to get out of the area code.
Yeah, you need to be out of town, or because something's going to go wrong, and you're getting a phone call and you're responding, and in itself, people just look at it. This is a working farm. I mean, it's every day somebody's taking care of the cattle, taking care of the horses. Explain some of that.
Yeah, so like I talked about earlier, it's just kind of allocating your resources when you need to get things done. My beef herdsman, he's a one-man show for most of the year, but our guys that do the crops, they feed during the winter because there's not a whole lot going on. And when we're breeding or during springtime when we're weaning, we kind of help get resources to the beef herdsman to where he can get everything done. But yeah, it's just one big happy, kind of dysfunctional sometimes family.
Dysfunctional, I like that. Well, I will say somebody was down here the other day and they were telling me, they were like, yeah, we got held up on the road because they were moving cattle.
Yeah, that's how we do it. Most of the time it's a horse, and we're going straight down the road, county road.
Yeah, it's a county road. That's what they were telling me about. They were like there's cows along the road.
Yeah, the school bus really likes it when we we get in the middle of the road, and he's trying to make his route, but the kids love it. So, yeah, I can't tell you how many people have taken pictures. They'll pull over and we'll just go right by them. The cows don't care; they're so used to it. It's almost like it's in their DNA because there's no fences. I mean, we're just going down the road.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually it's well, yeah.
So when you move them to a certain area, they just stay there. They know to stay. I mean, they're just like.
Well, from pasture to pasture, we don't have fence. There's We'll use fence loosely.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So
I thought, yeah. How do you keep them?
No, we're not free range.
Yeah.
But to go,
That could be some quality entertainment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
but to go from A to B or from the barn to the pasture.
That is almost free range, and then because there's like the one intersection they got caught was up by the red barn, and they were like, we pull up and there's these cows, and then we're like, but yeah, I mean they could go their own way if they wanted to.
So it's like an episode of Yellowstone out here then.
That's right. There's no train station. Train station's in Grand Junction, but yes, it's cool, and really another cool piece of probably in the near future research. Gallagher Fence makes these collars. They're kind of like GPS collars for dogs, except they're for cows. They've got a solar panel on them, it hangs around their neck, and you can geofence your cows without having to hack an actual fence.
That's cool.
So,
we do some geofencing, but it's not for cattle.
kind of the perfect segue into what's coming down the pipe on our field trial courses is our partnership with Tall Timbers. And instead of trying to get in there with bush hogs and tractors and everything, we're going to try to use those cows as Mr. Ames had originally intended.
There you go. Ooh, we're going to have to redo some fencing. Some areas.
No, I mean that is the fence. Like you train them.
Yeah. That's right. They stay inside that. But I was thinking of Mr. Ames's fence that he has everywhere around here.
Oh yeah.
And that's quite the entertainment because
It just shows up.
it can be challenging when you're scouting and you're cutting through somewhere and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of fence there.
Yeah, you can't jump out of
a
it.
pretty interesting concept of just geofencing a shot collar basically with the cows.
So it's similar to a dog shot collar, I guess, that
Like
keeps them in
your
their
fenced-in
perimeter.
yard, yeah.
And this is, I guess they've got the smart technology where if the cow gets chased out by a coyote of the fence, it'll just move the boundary and over time move it back in, kind of corral it back in. So it's really neat. I think we could get some pretty good research. And it kind of hits on the research that was in my master's project. We had a young lady with Forestry and Wildlife that put out real quail eggs in our native warm season grass pastures that we were grazing. It didn't work that great because we tied an orange ribbon at every nest, and cows are really curious. So,
Whoops.
That's up.
yes. Whoops. But yes, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Cool technology.
Any other
On the
upcoming
cutting edge,
research projects coming up?
We're working on some different crop stuff, but that's just in the infancy, and a couple of grasses. But when our Tall Timbers folks get here, I think their main objective is to apply research to every management technique that they do. So we will get some papers flying out of here.
Yeah, and that's going to be another future down the road show. I promise we're gonna definitely have some discussions with them and probably with you again because we'll have to get you in here.
Yeah, could you elaborate any more on Tall Timbers?
Yeah, just kind of what's getting ready to happen here.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, so there's a donor down in Florida, and I guess he got it together with a group of his friends, and they decided that if we were going to run the national championship at Ames, it should be back on wild birds just for the prestige. Yeah. 25 years ago, we did have wild birds. We had about a bird to the acre, and through a series of unfortunate events, whatever happened, and they went to a pre-release program. But we kind of want to shift away from that and get back to wild birds, but it's just going to be a major habitat improvement. On that landscape, you can imagine every 50th tree we're going to keep, and the rest of them are going to go away. So just switch from a hardwood forest back to a grassland or a savanna.
Yeah.
And some big fires in the future.
Large fires, and that is what they use. Once we get into a quote unquote maintenance mode, we use prescribed fire to maintain the field trial course.
And there's going to be a little bit of a change in how the national will be run during those couple of years. Care to elaborate on that a little bit for people?
So we felt collectively that the afternoon course had more low-hanging fruit in terms of being able to do more quickly in terms of habitat restoration. So they're going to start on it just as soon as that next field trial is over, starting burning and then timber removal. But for the next, we'll say 3 to 4 years, we'll be running all field trials just on the morning course. So we'll have 3 1-hour courses plus the national's just a 3-hour course.
And then after that, we'll flip-flop it to the,
We'll flip-flop. If you're familiar with Sedgefield Plantation, that's similar kind of.
how they did it down there. And that's I missed out on that running down there. I was, pregnant at that time, so I missed running there. But my husband's been there, and that's another Fairchild destination that is highly sought after to go to. So it's most of them are down there right now because it's going on. Yep, it is going on. Anything specific that you want to bring up while we still got a couple minutes here?
Nothing really comes to mind. We're grateful for the opportunity to showcase what we have. I do feel kind of like it's been long enough that we've been not really in the shadows, but not many people know, and it's mainly our own fault. Trying to be more inclusive, more open.
As an East Tennessean, I never knew about this place until I moved down here, and then I'm like, I've never heard about it, and I still run into people all the time. Like I use it as a reference. I'll be like, I live near Ames, and they'll be like, what? And what's? And I'm like, so then I have to explain, and I'm like, how do we not know that there's this large of a tract of land that is still privately held and owned and one tract here? Because it's just phenomenal that this is it's a jewel. It really is that people don't realize is here.
And I wouldn't have known about it if it hadn't been for what we do here, it's very cool. Yeah. And I mean, just to think about it all still being together, and
you just don't find large continuous tracts like that anymore.
No, you don't. You don't at all.
Yep.
Well, we got about 2 more minutes. What is something that you like to do when you're not here working?
He doesn't get any days off.
I like to spend time with my family. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they're coming up, being raised in the greatest place I think they could.
And honestly,
that is crazy. Yeah,
they got one heck of a playground.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine being a child on this. You would never see me, but I mean, if I was your kid, but I would.
Yeah.
But
turn them loose.
Turn them loose. I think my daughter, she'll be the horse lady, and my son's already driving combines and tractors, so he's hooked.
Well, he's already working. So
he's already working.
Yeah. I stopped the clock, right?
Well, Matt, this has been very educational. I mean, I've learned a couple things, especially with the research, because even though I know about Ames Plantation, I don't know what goes on at Ames Plantation. This has been really cool. Yeah. And then I never knew y'all were open to visitors. I always thought it was closed. I really did.
So
I never knew it was open.
The first time you've heard of Ames, look them up on the 4th Thursday of every month, right?
From March to October. You can visit our website, amesplantation.org.
Okay.
There's a wealth of knowledge on there, from the cattle herd to the national championship. It's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt. It's been great. Folks, this is Tennessee WildCast. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org. And follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can invest in Tennessee's wildlife future by purchasing a license at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. That's GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.